I sent $8,600 to cover my parents' kitchen remodel. A week later, my sister sent a group text. Reminder, house blessing this Saturday. Immediate family only. My mom followed with, we want without you. I just smiled, froze the funds, and removed my name from the permit. At 7:12 a.m. The next morning, my dad was banging on my door, screaming, "The inspector just shut us down." I opened the door slowly and said, "I've never felt that kind of anger before. Not when I got scammed out of $300 by my old roommate. Not when my car got towed even though I had the damn permit on the dash. This was different. It wasn't just disrespect. It was like they spit in my face after I handed them a check. I sent $8,600 to my parents for their kitchen renovation. Not a loan. Not a partial gift. The full thing, paid in one transfer. They made it sound urgent. Gas leak, rotting cabinets, some city inspection deadline they couldn't miss. My mom said if it didn't get done that week, the fines would start piling up. My dad called twice just to confirm the amount. I wired it over Monday morning and didn't hear much after that. I figured they were busy with the contractors. A few texts from my sister midweek, saying stuff like demo day and new counters coming in. I didn't respond. I don't usually need thanks, but I guess I expected something. Anything. Then Monday evening, exactly 7 days after the money left my account, my sister sent a message in the family group chat. Reminder, house blessing on Saturday. Immediate family only. I was halfway through rereading it when my mom followed up. We don't want you to come. That one hit like a brick to the face. No explanation, just a clean-cut message. I stared at it for a good minute, phone still in my hand, trying to figure out if I missed something. Immediate family only. And they didn't want me there. After I paid for the damn thing. I didn't respond. I didn't call. I didn't argue. I opened my banking app and froze the funds. The payment had been set up as a scheduled release because of some contractor delay. Luckily, they hadn't completed the last verification, so I had time. Then I called the contractor and told him to pause everything. No more drywall, no painting, no appliance installs. I went to the site the next morning and handed each of the workers $50 in cash, with simple instructions. Tell my parents that unless they pay in full today, you're walking off. And if my parents so much as raise their voices, call the cops. They agreed. One of them actually laughed. What my parents didn't know was that only half the money had been released to the contractor. The rest never cleared, and there was no contract between my parents and the workers, just between me and the contractor. Without my approval, the city couldn't keep the permits open. Tuesday morning, 7:12 a.m., someone started pounding on my front door, like full-on pounding. I didn't need to check who it was. I could already hear his voice from the hallway. The inspector just shut us down. I opened the door. My dad was red-faced, clutching a rolled-up piece of paper. I didn't say anything right away. Then I just said, "Yeah, I know." I pulled my name from the permit. They needed my authorization. "I'm not authorizing anything." He looked stunned, like he couldn't even process what I was saying. I told him the rest. The money didn't go through. The contractor's guys were only working because I paid them a little bonus and told them to wait until he paid up. If he didn't, they were done. "You planned a celebration for a kitchen I paid for, then told me I wasn't welcome. I'm not fixing your mistake. Pay up or deal with a half-gooded kitchen." Then I went back inside and left him standing there. I didn't check if he left. Didn't care. By noon that day, the group chat had turned into a slow-motion car crash. My sister tried first. 2 missed calls, then a third. I didn't pick up. 5 minutes later came the text, "What the hell did you do?" I didn't answer. I let it sit there unread for an hour. Then my dad jumped in with a long message about how I had complicated everything and how the inspectors are power tripping. Said I had no right to block work that didn't involve me anymore. That last part really stuck with me. Didn't involve me. My $8,600, was still sitting in a frozen state while their workers stood around doing nothing, waiting for a miracle. Their blessing party was 5 days away. No floors, no backsplash, no appliances, nothing past inspection. I knew they were spiraling. By 3 p.m., the contractor called. He said my dad showed up in person, red-faced and sweating, and handed him an envelope. Inside was the rest of the payment. $4,300 in small bills. No questions, no negotiations. Just shoved the envelope across the table and told them to finish the job. I asked if the crew got their $50 back. He laughed and said, "They handed it right to me. Said you took care of them already, so now they were going to finish by Friday." I told him, "Fine, just don't mention me again. To anyone. Let them think." I vanished. That night, I checked the group chat. It was like nothing had ever happened. My sister was posting photos again, fresh tiles going in, boxes with shiny new appliances stacked in the hallway. My mom sent a blurry selfie with the new pendant lights in the background, acting like it was some magical home transformation. No apology, no explanation, just back to the show. I didn't respond, but I did watch. Saturday rolled around, and as expected, not a word from anyone. No reminder, no invite. I wasn't even an afterthought. Around 2:30 p.m., my cousin Rena posted a photo on Instagram. My parents were standing in their brand new kitchen, arms around each other like a couple who just won the lottery. Plates of food were already laid out, a glass of wine in my mom's hand, decorations strung across the ceiling like it was a wedding reception. The caption read, "Blessing Day for Aunt Lisa and Uncle Don's beautiful remodel. What a journey." I stared at it for a while. They were all there, cousins, aunts, even. Then my sister posted her own shot. Same kitchen, same crowd. This time the caption was different. All done without Caleb's drama this time. That's when it all locked into place. They weren't just ungrateful. They were actively rewriting the story. I didn't just miss the event. I was the problem they had to work around. I was being erased. Sunday morning, at 8:41 a.m., the calls started again. My mom first, then my dad, then back-to-back from my sister. I let them all go to voicemail. Then came the texts. "Can you pick up for once? We need to talk. There's a new issue, and we could really use your help." At 10:17, my mom dropped the real reason. "Something came up, and we need some support. I know the kitchen thing got out of hand, but we're still family." I stared at the screen. Support. They had their blessing, their kitchen, their photos. They badmouthed me to the whole family. And now they wanted more. They wanted support. I put my phone down, walked into the kitchen, the one I paid for in my own apartment, and opened the fridge. I wasn't even angry this time. I was cold, detached. For the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to answer. By the time Sunday night rolled around, the messages shifted from desperate to manipulative. The urgency was still there, but now it was wrapped in guilt-tripping and veiled threats. My mom had left me 2 long voicemails I didn't even bother to listen to. My sister sent one of those, "I know, we've had our issues, but can we just talk like adults?" Texts that sounded like it was copy-pasted from an apology template. I didn't answer any of them, but Monday morning things escalated. I was brushing my teeth when I heard a knock. Not banging this time, but persistent. I already knew. My mom was outside. When I opened the door, she looked exhausted, but not embarrassed. She went straight into a monologue, something about how they had a situation with the bank, that the funds Dad used to pay the contractor were flagged and locked, and now they couldn't cover their utilities. She kept tossing the word temporary around, like it would soften the fact that they wanted more money. I didn't even ask what the issue was. I just stood there and let her talk, arms crossed, thinking about all the times she pulled the same act with a different story. New car repairs, medical emergencies, unexpected bills. Every single time, I covered it without a fight. She tried to shift the blame halfway through. Said it was the contractor's fault for not giving a receipt. Said the blessing party wasn't even her idea. Said my sister was the one who wrote, "We don't want you to come." I waited until she was done, then asked one question. Why didn't you just call me before you decided to cut me out? She opened her mouth like she had something rehearsed. Then nothing came out. I told her flat out, I'm not paying another dime. I said I wasn't a backup generator for when things go dark. I told her she could figure it out like I've had to figure it out my entire adult life, while she smiled and called me dramatic to my cousins behind my back. She didn't say goodbye, just turned around and left. That afternoon, I canceled the recurring payment for my sister's rent. She was getting $750 from me every month, and I doubt she even told her boyfriend about it. The landlord wasn't thrilled, but I explained the situation just enough for him to stop asking questions. Then I called my dad's dentist. They still had my card on file for those follow-up procedures he conveniently spaced out across multiple months. I told them to remove it permanently. I wasn't just pulling away. I was removing every thread they'd ever used to reach into my wallet, every lifeline, every favor. By Thursday, it was radio silence. I could feel them scrambling. They were probably trying to fix things quietly, hoping I'd come around, but I didn't. Saturday came and went. No party post this time. No group photos or half-baked captions. I imagined the kitchen looked great, but that blessing didn't feel quite as divine now that they were sitting under new pendant lights with bills stacking up and no one left to cover them. Sunday morning, I got 5 calls before 10 a.m. I didn't answer. Around noon, the texts started again. This time, my mom went full passive-aggressive. I guess money is more important than family to some people. It's okay. God sees everything. You'll understand when you have kids. Then came the real push. Your father is thinking about taking out a second mortgage because we have no options. But don't worry about us. We'll manage somehow. I stared at the screen for a long time. They had pushed me out, used me up, rewrote the story to make me the problem. And now, when I walked away, they were acting like victims. Then, my sister posted something on Facebook, a picture of her coffee captioned, "Crazy how some people demand credit just for doing what decent families should do." It had likes and comments, including one from her friend. "Is this about Caleb?" She didn't reply, but she didn't deny it either. They weren't just trying to guilt me anymore. They were trying to ruin my name in the family, paint me as selfish, disloyal, the ungrateful one, the unstable one. And that's when it clicked. They thought I was done, that this was me storming off, sulking in a corner. They didn't realize this was just the start. That Sunday night, I didn't sleep. I wasn't anxious or bitter. I just kept turning over one thought in my head. They still believed they had the upper hand. They thought this was a temporary rift, that if they ignored it long enough, I'd come crawling back like I always did, bank card in hand, apology half-formed. They had no idea what was coming. First thing Monday morning, I called the city's permitting office and asked a few questions, innocent ones. What happens if someone removes their name from a homeowner improvement permit halfway through a job? What if the job wasn't finished to code? What if a contractor was paid in cash and there was no record of it? The woman on the phone didn't know the details, but she gave me a direct line to an inspector. I called, laid out what I knew, and ended the call with one sentence. "I just want to make sure everything happening at 312 Voss Street is legal." He said he'd look into it. Then I called the IRS tip line. My dad had pulled cash out in chunks, sloppy, inconsistent withdrawals over multiple days. I knew this because one of the contractor's guys casually mentioned it to me, laughing about how he counted bills like a drug deal. My dad always thought cash was invisible. It isn't. I didn't accuse him of anything. Just said I was concerned that a large cash-funded renovation was being done with no official record. That was all it took. By Wednesday, the inspector had returned to their house. Apparently, some of the wiring wasn't up to code, and the city permit was flagged for re-inspection due to changes in the original approval, namely, me removing my name. My dad called me 3 times and left a voicemail that sounded more like a meltdown than a message. He said the inspector had told them to either redo the electrical work with a licensed contractor or face a fine and possible order to tear out the finished portions. Then he said, You did this. He was right. Thursday morning, I sent an email not to him, not to my mom, to every relative who'd been at the kitchen blessing. I attached a PDF of the $8,600 payment confirmation, full transfer from my account with a timestamp. Then I just wrote, in case anyone was misinformed, no rant, no backstory, just the proof. The fallout started faster than I expected. By Friday afternoon, I got a message from my cousin Nate. Dude, what is going on? Then another from an aunt. Your mom said you didn't pay for anything. Are you saying you funded the whole kitchen? I just replied with the screenshot. They stopped asking after that. Saturday rolled in. They still held the blessing. It was quiet, smaller than before. A neighbor, my aunt, who's always been jealous of my mom's Facebook perfect life. No cousins, no church friends. My uncle skipped it entirely. And according to a message I got later, he openly asked at dinner why they lied. My mom cried in front of everyone. My dad left before they even lit the candles. But I wasn't done. I filed a simple online report with the state's contractor licensing board, flagging the unlicensed electrical work. I didn't sign my name, just uploaded the photo of the guy installing the outlets. He had posted it himself on his business Instagram and tagged the location. Then I sat back. Sunday morning, the text came in, starting with my mom. Why are you doing this? Do you hate us that much? You made your point. And finally, we don't deserve this. You've hurt us. Don't expect help from us ever again. That one made me laugh. Help from them. So I responded, you never helped. You just took, and now you can figure out how to live without me. She didn't reply, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally free from all of it. Part 5. The Shift. The next few weeks were quiet, not peaceful. Just tense in the way you know something's building underneath. No more calls, no texts, no social media posts. They went radio silent, like they were hoping to starve me out emotionally. But this wasn't hunger. It was healing. And I wasn't waiting on an apology anymore. I was watching them come undone without me. Then, out of nowhere, my sister reached out. It started with a photo. A picture of her dog lying on a bare mattress. Had to sell the bed frame. Things are tight. Hope you're okay. No context, no explanation. Just an unspoken nudge. I didn't reply. 2 days later, she tried again. Can we talk? I miss how things used to be. I left that one on read. The next day, my mom sent me an email. Not a text. An actual email. Like she was trying to sound more formal. She wrote a full page about how much she regretted, how things happened, how she let pride get in the way, and how she never meant to push me out. She even ended it with love, Mom, like she hadn't treated me like a stranger weeks earlier. But buried in the middle of the message, between the flowery language and vague half-blame on stress, was the real reason she was writing. They had new problems. Turns out the inspector's report triggered a reevaluation of the renovation permit, which uncovered more issues. The backsplash was installed by an unlicensed subcontractor, and the contractor himself hadn't filed the correct forms for material sourcing. Their fine was over $9,000. She said they were reaching the end of what they could handle, and asked very subtly if I could help them explore options. That was the moment I felt it. The shift. They weren't trying to guilt me anymore. They were afraid. Afraid I'd never come back. Afraid of what else might unravel. Afraid of not having me to throw their emergencies at like fastballs. And they were right to be. I didn't answer. I sent a short text to the contractor. No more conversations about the project. Direct everything to Dawn and Lisa. I'm not involved in anything moving forward. He replied instantly. Understood. My sister tried once more. A message that started off nice, and then quickly turned into guilt. You're punishing us. I get that, but why cut me off too? I was just caught in the middle. I almost laughed. She wasn't in the middle. She was the one who wrote, "We don't want you to come." She was the one who publicly posted that they did it without Caleb's drama. And now, Without my $750 a month, she was facing something she hadn't felt in years: responsibility. Now the calls were going to her, the bills, the stress, and she wasn't built for it. She stopped messaging after that. The part that surprised me most was how quickly the rest of the family faded away. Once the truth came out, once people realized I had funded the entire kitchen and they lied about it, no one wanted to be part of the drama anymore. My parents weren't a golden couple with the charming daughter and the selfless son. They were two people who burned the bridge they lived on. I started sleeping better. No late-night calls, no surprise bills, no emotional blackmail masked as family bonding. And every time I saw another email or text I didn't respond to, I realized something else. They weren't just losing me. They were finally alone. 2 months passed. My phone stayed silent. My inbox, too. Even my sister, who once couldn't go 3 days without sending a meme or asking for help with just a small thing, disappeared completely. I thought maybe they'd finally given up. Maybe they were adapting to life without me. Then I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was my dad's coworker. He said he got my number from an old family friend and hoped it was okay to call. He started by asking how I was doing, which was odd because I'd never spoken to this guy directly in my life. Then he got to the point. He said my dad had collapsed at work the day before high blood pressure, stress, possibly something worse. He was okay now, but things were bad at home. I thanked him for the call, said I appreciated it, then hung up. I didn't go to the hospital. Instead, I sat on my couch and thought about how many times I'd been in pain, overwhelmed, barely keeping things together, and my parents had treated me like a burden. When I was working 3 jobs and barely making rent silence. When I got laid off and didn't tell anyone for weeks out of pride, no one checked in. Now, they were drowning in the mess they made, and I was expected to dive in and save them again. Like always. The next day, my sister posted a photo of my dad from the hospital bed with a caption that read, "Some people only care when it's too late." That was the last straw. I screenshotted it. Then I posted my own photo, a screenshot of the $8,600 transfer with a short caption, "I cared before it was too late." I cared before anyone else did. And this is how they treated me. I didn't tag anyone, didn't call names, just facts. The comment section exploded. Some cousins commented support. Others asked if everything was okay. A few, clearly unaware of the full story, asked what I was talking about. I let them come to their own conclusions. By the next morning, my mom finally broke her silence. She sent me one text. Was it really worth tearing the family apart? I stared at that message for a long time. Then I wrote back, "You tore it apart the second you cashed my money and told me not to come." No reply. A week later, I found out from a mutual friend that my sister had moved out of her apartment and was back living with my parents. She couldn't afford rent anymore. The friend also mentioned my parents were selling some furniture to cover debt. The fines, the failed inspection, the second round of electrical work, it had snowballed into something they could no longer contain. For once, I felt nothing. Not pride, not regret, just stillness. They were each on their own now. My sister, no longer propped up by monthly deposits. My parents no longer patched together with favors and emergency cash. And me, I was fine. My bills were paid. My home was quiet. My peace wasn't something I had to fight for anymore. They used to call me selfish for setting boundaries. Now they call it silence. But that silence, it's what I earned. 2 weeks passed. No calls, no texts, no surprise voicemails asking if we could just talk. My phone stayed quiet, and not the tense kind of quiet where you're bracing for the next move. Just real quiet. The kind that actually felt good. I didn't hear from my mom. Not a whisper from my dad. Not even one of my sister's passive-aggressive quotes or fake check-ins. It was like they'd all collectively decided to retreat and hope that time would make me forget everything that happened. But I didn't forget. I just stopped caring. I heard from a neighbor that they sold a bunch of furniture. The dining table I ate every childhood meal at gone. My dad's favorite recliner, the one no one else was ever allowed to sit in, sold. The backyard was overgrown. Apparently, they were behind on bills, and with no extra help coming in, things started slipping. My sister had officially moved back in with them. I found out when my old roommate sent me a screenshot of her deactivating all her social media accounts. No more dog pictures. No more filtered selfies with vague captions. Just gone. I'm guessing reality hit hard when she had to choose between posting brunch and actually affording groceries. And still, I didn't feel anything. Not joy, not revenge. Just space. Peace. The house blessing never came up again. No follow-ups. No attempts to explain or clean things up. I guess they figured the less they said, the easier it would be to pretend like it all never happened. That's their pattern. Bury the damage and move on like it's just another family quirk. But I was done being part of the illusion. I started sleeping better. I cooked more. Picked up a new project I'd been putting off for a year. Even started going out again. Letting myself breathe without always checking for a missed call or an overdue request. It was the first time in years that I wasn't someone's financial plan B or emotional punching bag. It ended exactly how it needed to. No explosive arguments. No dramatic closure. Just silence. The kind that sticks. The kind that says, this door isn't broken, it's locked. The conclusion's simple. People don't change when they're comfortable. My parents used me like a crutch for years, and the second I stepped away, they collapsed. Not because I wanted them to, but because they built everything on me without ever thinking I'd move. Now they know better. And me, I'm finally living without waiting for someone else's next mistake.